Hello. Welcome to Outlaw Redemption the Podcast, a Western folk rock opera. I'm your host, Bill Wardlow. My co-host today, the one and only RPG himself, Ronald Allen Cordy. How's it going, Ron?
Hey, Bill. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Pretty excited.
Yeah, so this was a pretty big project.
Oh, wow, was it?
Yeah. How many musicians did you say were on it?
Well, there's 9 others besides me, Bill.
Wow. And that took roughly what, 9 months?
No, I think actually we did that with about 6 months once we actually started production.
Really?
Yeah, we started like in November, and
that's not counting the mixing and mastering part.
No. We had a little time after that, but I think we got all the recording done in about 6 months, just like one day a week, on only a couple of months.
Nice.
Really efficient. Really efficient. We had 9 other musicians, and 2 of them came back twice, so that would make 11 sessions, and you and I did. So we probably had about 20 sessions, maybe 4-hour sessions.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So to give you a little background, I own Manhound Sound Studio, and I ran into this guy at a See You in the Funnies concert.
Shout out to Jimmy Klepper.
Fountain Square, and he started telling me about this project he had, and how it was a Western folk rock opera, and there was a story, and he was going to have string sections and this thing and that thing, and I just thought to myself, this old man's crazy.
Well, you know.
And I proceeded to tell him that I have a studio in my backyard. And he's like, oh, yeah? Can I record there? I'm like, you absolutely can record there. And I give him my number, and he called me the next morning, wanting to know if he could get in.
I was on a mission, man.
You was on a mission. So before we get there, let's get a little bit of background. Who's Ronald Allen Cordy?
Oh, I'm just a dude that loves music, man. Loves people. I wrote music for a long time. I think when I first started writing music, I was working at started playing music. I was a plant manager at a factory, and it was, well, actually, I wasn't even I was a quality manager, but it was very stressful. And I spent a lot of hours. We worked a lot of hours. We was at a barrel factory, and you worked a lot of overtime. And so, man, I get home, and it was the only thing that was sanity was to grab that guitar. I started to decide to learn how to play because I wanted some release. And some of my best times in life were sitting around a campfire where somebody had a guitar, and we were all singing and playing. And I always wanted to play guitar around a campfire and be able to, I used to call it campfire good, be able to sing some tunes, you know.
Right.
But then wasn't very long, I started writing my own little things, just a little. I remember my very first song. Sometimes I still play it every once in a while. It just hit something in me. But if you know me very well, man, I think about a lot of things, and I go very tangential. It's nice that I have rails on me sometimes. And what I found out is with all my scattered thoughts that go onto a million subjects, there was something about writing a song and a story that made you stick within certain confines, and it was very cathartic. And it was a good place for me to process things how I saw or how I felt or things like that. And I could actually say what I needed to quote Jimmy, I could say what I needed to say. But truly, that was, I think that was one of the best things. And plus, I've always just loved music. It was like my own land to go to. When everything's bad, you can go listen to music and find something that's either uplifts you or recognizes where you're at or just anything. Or just, I was telling Thomas last night. I'm sorry, not Thomas, Chris. I was telling Chris last night at the show we did. And he's a guitar player. And I was like, those guitar players, man, everybody talks about who's the best. They're all the best. To me, they're my friends. I listen to all those, some of them aren't in this world anymore, but they're my old friends. I go to them. So that's me and music. So for like 20 years, I wrote songs, I got a pretty big library built up, and then just always thought, man, it's going to be sad one day. These ain't going to be around. I'm going to be done, and they'll not be here.
Right.
So I wanted to record, and it was kind of funny because I thought, man, it'd be nice. I wanted to try to do home studio things and this and that and the other. But then finally a friend of mine said, dude, you're a writer and a musician. Why are you trying to be a sound engineer? Go be a writer and a musician and try to get the things together so you can get it, put some money out to an engineer.
Absolutely.
So, tell me, the learning curve is there. I mean, you can learn it. There's stuff everywhere. And sometimes it feels laziness, but it's really a cumbersome task. Like my friend, like you, brother, I like to call Bill the Wizard. He is the Wizard Bill, just so you know. And, but he invests himself in his trade, and he follows other people, and, you learn and educate, and it's cool.
And it took me a long time
Very
to get
long time.
where I was comfortable with it.
I bet.
It really is a lot of work.
I mean,
and
you're
people,
still in school.
People think, yeah, absolutely. I learn something every
You
day.
are.
I get up and study every single day.
That's one of the best things about Bill. He does. Funny, in school, I didn't do any homework, but I've learned coming to the studio, doing gigs. You got to do your homework. You got to practice. There's no
Show
shortcuts.
up prepared and
Show up prepared, learn the
Right.
details, and execute a plan. That's exactly. I wish there was another way because I'm very lazy and,
Right.
cathartic about a lot of things, and I just want to feel and be, but you got to work at it if you want to do it. And I respect working with somebody that's still educating themselves. And I try to educate myself a little bit in that area, but it frees me not having to do that to do other things like think of a big project.
You've come around to the realization that it's not just buying an interface and some speakers and throwing up a mic in front of you.
It's fun.
There's
It's cool.
just so much more to it than that.
You can put down a
And
track and get a good idea that way, but
Absolutely,
a production is a production, and it's nice to know a little bit about that so you know what the guy producing it's doing. But that's the whole thing. We have 20 instruments on this album. So, if you can pull out of a box and just watch a couple YouTube videos and think you're going to put a 20-track album together, 20 tracks with 20 instruments and 10 musicians, and do it within a year.
Right.
Record it in 6 months, master it over a couple, then start releasing it. Because we actually had it done long before we released it. A few weeks, a couple months.
Yeah.
So, we did a lot of work in that time. And you'd have to be a savant to be able to do that fresh out of a box. But what we can do is play music and get an engineer to do it, a guy that will study who's worth paying. You
Right.
know? So, anyway,
Well,
what's real cool, we co-produced this too. So, we decided how to build it, and Bill really indulged me because
Yeah, well, I got to be honest with you. When we first started this project, I had no idea what I was in for.
I tried to tell you.
Right, and like I said, I thought you were out of your mind.
I am.
And once we started along with the project, we had several sessions before I started to come around and realize where we were headed with this thing. It didn't fully land on me until we started bringing other musicians in, and I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be big.
Yeah, it was.
And
There's a lot of push.
And still, until toward the end, I still had no idea it was going to be that big, and I think you did from the get-go.
Yeah, I think what the real opener, I remember the real eye-opener for you, it was the day that we did and put together the narrations.
Yeah.
When
I saw the full project laid out in front of me, I really got a good shot at what it was, and
it is
really understood where we were going. Because without the narrations, it's a collection of songs.
Yeah, exactly. Without them, it's a collection of songs. They tell a story.
They do, and it
They
would be
do.
a good album
It would be a
without
good album
without the narration.
But there was, so here's I love concept albums, all of them. I mean, Tommy, Quadrophenia, all the Floyd stuff. I mean, you go down the line, but always, so like Redheaded Stranger, Willie Nelson was a great cowboy album, concept
Absolutely.
album. And then you got Elton John's Tumbleweed Connection, which is another great Western. But I think the pinnacle really was, I'm sorry, but Eagles Desperado was such a great, to me, I would listen to that album and there would be a movie in my head. And the sad thing was, it's like, that's the soundtrack to a movie, but the only movie that existed was the one in my head. And there are many other Westerns I tried to fit it to and say, well, that would have been, but so when I started this project, I really wanted to write a movie, the soundtrack to a movie.
Right.
I have other aspirations. I think it would be a great story. And it's funny. I think I wrote it too because my dad's been really sick and I spent a lot of time in the hospital with him and even going over to his house before that for the last few years. And I go there every day and hang out with him and for a while. And we watch Westerns. The whole Westerns, man, Gunsmoke and Wagon Train, Rawhide.
Right.
And I think his stuff just permeated in me. And I had wrote a song called Outlaw Redemption. And I thought, man, I should just turn this into a whole sequence because it's got a song. It's a song with meaning to me, which is about, Christ on the cross and the three crosses up there and the thief that was given redemption because he believed in who the Lord was. And
I mean, if you're going to write a story, you might as well base it off of the greatest story ever told.
You know what? Pull out the high dollar material, right? You know what I'm saying? The most important, more than that to me, it doesn't matter about the dollar. It's about the importance of it. I'm one voice in a universe, and if I got something to say, that's one thing I want to say, maybe I'm different than a lot of people, and I got different views than a lot of people about, I try to be as kind and tolerant to everybody in the whole world. But, I mean, Jesus was about love, and I really believe that's the only way this world gets better. I don't know how to get some people from being hateful. I don't know how to get my own self from being hateful sometimes. So,
It's a struggle we all go through.
It is. But in all of that, my failings, I find that to be the most reassuring message that you could ever have. There is redemption. There is something on the other side of messing up. And I think we all have messed up. We all get lost. And I think there's some message. So that's where that came from. But going back, that's why I had to do this project. So it became bigger. And it was like this thing was all happening, Dad, and, wanting to leave something or do something that matters. And then I ran into you. Like I said, we ran into you, and it was like I had this whole vision. The other inspiration I had, though, I was born in 66. I'm an old man now. But the Dukes of Hazzard, the kid didn't love that. But Waylon Jennings doing his narrations, that was the narration part. I loved the way that he would tell a story, and then the scene would pop off. Oh, here goes the old boys again. They're down the road. Oh, Uncle Jesse, he's trying to get after him. And then they'd show Jesse chasing, and all that good stuff. It would be so fun to watch. And I was like, that was a great way to tell a story.
Absolutely.
And so I don't have the advantage of necessarily making a movie. Hopefully we do someday. Or maybe making a play, which would be a musical, which would be super cool. But what I could do with this narrations is make a musical audio book, basically. A visual, put a movie in your head. Just like when I was sitting there listening to Desperado, building that movie in my head. I had characters. I knew what they all looked like. Right. I know what them Doolin Dalton boys look like in my story, in my movie. So that's what I wanted to make. And, man, it was a lot of fun. And here's, I got to say one of the coolest things we did on this. He's talking about all these musicians. I'm going to go down, I told you I was tangential. Every one of them guys and gals that played with me, I met at open mics and singer-songwriter circles. And they were willing to try to do something with another musician and get out of their own little box and their own little ego and their own little heads and join in with something. And, these guys are awesome folks, man. They're some of my best friends in my whole life. And we did something that was, and to me, I'm just saying, I think it's incredible because how it's conceived and how it was done by a group of friends, that are all, and they're so talented.
And I got to say, I didn't know very many of them when we started this project, and everybody was fantastic to work with.
They're the best.
Everybody
folks.
come in ready to go. They had done their homework. They were happy to be here. They were willing to do take after take.
Yeah. Well, that's going to happen, Bill, at your place. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
We're going to have, Bill says, he said, well, you can do what you got, but if you don't have it, you don't have it. Now, you can record everything, and if you don't need it, you can not use it. But if you don't have it, you don't have it.
It's just not there.
It's just, it's infuriating.
If you've got an idea, you might as well try it out.
Amen.
And that's what the mute button's for.
Yeah, it's. I have to say, man, every time I thought that was just good enough. I mean, man, you ain't gonna get no better than that. Then the next one, we end up using the next take.
Right.
It happened over and over, and not that not the one before it wasn't probably perfectly fine. It was just, you're going, well, I guess you're right. It is better. I like that one better.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about working with a guy like you, Bill. I mean, to know that and to say, let's do this. We have our little things where we go back and forth, but man, at the end of the day, we go ahead and do whatever because Bill's probably right and we should have it done, because if we don't have it, we won't have it. But if we don't,
man, I'm glad we recorded this.
Yeah, well, let me finish. But there are times.
That's the first time.
There are times.
That's the first time I've heard Bill was probably right.
I said probably. Now, we have a lot of good times. Man, we are really working a project.
Yeah.
And it showed with what we did, because I promise you there ain't too many people that could pull off what we did. And I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. It's amazing to me. It's like it was meant to be. And I think that we are like iron sharpens iron sometimes, because so here's the difference, man. I love Pearl Jam. He loves Nirvana. He's a punk, and I'm a rocker. That's all right. No, I love Bill. He's my brother, man. He is a wizard. And
I appreciate that.
Your ear is impeccable to me, and you know what to do with me, and mostly. That was my disclaimer, because I reserve the right to have a objection
until an argument later.
Yeah,
to be determined.
I'm keeping my objection ticket alive. I'm not submitting it, but no, honestly, we have a good time.
Yeah, we've had a great time doing this, and it's been fabulous, and I'm glad we found each other.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Jake Dyer, who brought me down there. I have to say that.
Yes, absolutely.
That's who introduced us, Jake, my buddy Jake, who is also on the album with us.
Yeah.
What a project.
Great work on it. Yeah. So, moving on, we're going to go through this album.
Yes.
The whole point of this thing, the podcast itself, is to go through this album and just discuss song by song.
Yeah, we're going to go chapter and song at a time.
Chapter and song at a time, and discuss the storyline and how it come about, and how we went about recording it, who's on it, and things like that.
It's pretty interesting.
I think so. I had a really fabulous time doing it. It was a big deal to me. It was a big deal to you.
Yeah, and I think it'd be nice to get these layers.
I think it's worth it for us to go through and discuss this.
Because I don't think it's just about this project. I think it's about an insight to there's some examples, I think, of the layers, and there's things to learn, because we obviously learned these things. We discovered them along the way, and I think that it's kind of interesting we talk about, because I think people are capable of a lot of awesome things, and I think they just need to know there's an approach, and if you take it and are systematic about it and understand the layers you're working at, they could achieve a lot of things.
And this isn't the only approach. This is just the approach we took this time.
Here's the deal. I don't know about the other ones. This one worked.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel this project is very high quality. The results, your work, the musicians that I had were all high quality, and I think the story is a quality story. And it really is a testament to what can be done if people that are creative put the creative out there and say, we're going to make something.
Right.
And you take an idea and you add to it.
Right.
You don't have to
But
make
it's not
it
good
yours.
enough just to talk about it. You have to go do it.
You have to do it, and you have to want to do it, and there has to be a reason. If it gets you to do it, maybe any reason's good. I don't know. I'm not the judge of people. But I really thought I had a good message, and I wanted to do it. But I will tell you this.
If you don't do it,
You know,
it ain't there.
no, it ain't.
You just don't have it.
I will say this. It doesn't matter what the end thing is. In a sense, it does, but it doesn't, because the relationships and the time and the collaboration and connection that you have with the other people is one of the greatest experiences that you and they will ever have in their whole life. There are 10 people in this world that can say we did this, and not anybody gets to do this, and we may never get to do this again, because this was a different big thing, and not everybody gets to do different big things.
Right.
And it may mean nothing to anyone else, but at the end of the day, it's still a huge project, and we was able to do it together, and it was fun. And man, it was so beautiful. It's like we had a block of granite, and you're like, what are you going to do with that rock? Get it out of my yard. And then next thing you know, we got this freaking statue in front of us, and you're going, my God, how can you make rock look transparent? Like I seen that statue that looks like that lady's got a veil on her face.
Right.
And it's a statue. It turned a rock into something that looks like it's transparent rock, by their sculpting. And I think, I'm not saying that's what we did at that level, but boy, it was something special when we put it together, layer by layer. And I've never done anything cooler in my life, and I promise you, I have done some cool stuff in this life. I am very grateful, very blessed dude. Another reason I want to share this message, there's a lot in this song, and this story is about things I see in my life. I worked a lot of years with the homeless and addicted, and I've seen all the things that go on in this, and I live in this world. I mean, this story starts off in the Civil War, and I mean, it's kind of funny. We're at like this point in our lives. It's like, I've never seen it so divisive and people so angry at each other because they have different ideas.
Right.
And so it's like, here we are again. And, this story starts off at it.
Just in this room.
Yeah, just in this room. Yeah, Bill and I have our differences. That's what's beautiful, though, man. We have our differences on ideas, but we're reasonable when we talk.
Yeah.
And usually we find out that we agree mostly.
We're not that far off.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but
we just have different ways of getting there.
And people would try to find those ways to separate us, but yet when we get together, we can do this great project.
Right.
And it doesn't. It isn't about it makes me feel good that it makes Bill feel good. I know that, I mean, I brought the project to the studio, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's my project. I get the credit for writing it and this and that and the other, but I mean, it is what we did, man. And I know that. And I am so grateful. First of all, me and Bill, because we work so close together, but then I got all these other musicians that are my friends that came in and added their piece. And we were pretty mean to a couple of them because we didn't even know what everything else sounded like except what they needed to know.
Absolutely, and we did know what some of it sounded like,
and we did, and they
didn't let them know,
But so they came in and put their work in and just trusted that we were going to do the right thing with it, and we came out with and. Man, we went back and forth. Bill did so much of the stuff, but I mean, we sit here and talk, and we play this. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? And we had lots of material to choose from because we took a take after take after take.
Yeah,
we just had an idea, so we had all these different. Take this approach. How about we try it like this? And then we had those, so we could decide. Hey, we've got this guitar doing this right here. Let's use this violin over here doing this. And because we had a take of each one of those and vice versa. I mean, it was so fun. If you guys, I probably sound crazy, but if you've ever I'm sure those of you who've done this can understand what I'm saying. It is so fun to produce something like that with all that variety.
It really is. That's where all the preparation
Yeah, it took a lot
comes to
of
fruition and makes it worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the simple stuff, which was cool, because I will say, like the last song was purposely done very stripped down and simple and it's beautiful, and we could done that the whole way, but it was, I kept telling Bill, I'd say, hey, I got this, and Bill'd say, do we need that? And I'd say, hey, Bill, man, it's a rock opera, dude. We can have everything.
Yeah, we definitely indulged.
It was.
So
how could you not?
So yeah, again, this is just an introduction.
Yeah.
And we're gonna move on, and there'll be 10 episodes after this.
I can't wait. Hope you guys tune in and check it out. I want you to hear something about some of my friends too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.